Hadwa here. Welcome to an episode of Rutgers Retrospective. In today's episode, we will be exploring the history of Rutgers through one of its most famous presidents, Dr. William Demarest. We've recently restored footage of Dr. Demarest being interviewed by Richard P. McCormick about the various aspects of Rutgers history. The two take a tour of Old Queens campus, and to help us retrace their footsteps today is University Archivist Mr. Tom Frusciano. Before we watch the first part of this footage, we'd like to know a little bit more about it. When was this made and what purpose did it serve?
The purpose of the film seemed to be almost promotional, but it was also a way of recognizing the authority on Rutgers history at the time, which was William Demarest, the former president of Rutgers.
Thank you. And here is the first part of Demarest Reminds Us.
Dr. Demarest, one of my student friends, George Little, has been reading your book, and he's become very much interested in the history of Rutgers. He's been asking me certain questions that I haven't been able to answer, so I thought I'd bring him up and let you talk to him.
I'm very glad indeed to have both of you call on me, and I'm greatly pleased that you're interested in the history of Rutgers. I hope a good many of the students are. Was there anything particular in your mind as to which you wish to inquire?
Well, yes, there is. I'd like to hear about the development of the agricultural college, especially during your presidency.
Well, there was a large development from about the year 1900 when Dr. Edward B. Voorhees was the professor and the director. He had a great tradition behind him in the founding by Dr. George H. Cook, a very versatile scientist and a great servant of the state of New Jersey. And Dr. Voorhees himself was nationwide known for his scientific research. Then I had the privilege of sponsoring the appointment of Dr. Jacob G. Lippman as Dean and Director, and there was progress along many lines. The land of the college farm was much enlarged. Farm after farm was added, small area after small area, until the original 100 acres became 600 or 700 acres. And while I was still president, the state erected 4 buildings composing the circle around the present beautiful central campus: the general building, the poultry, the horticultural, and the dairy buildings. And now, Dr. Martin, director, with the college in the first rank among the universities and agricultural colleges of the country.
Well, that's very interesting, sir. Could you tell me a little bit about the origin of the Women's College and something about its early growth?
It was a very distinguished event, the founding of the Women's College in 1918, the work beginning with 54 students and with the teachers, almost all professors of old Rutgers, and the dean, Mrs. Mabel S. Douglas. I remember so well my calling on Mrs. Douglas to invite her to become the dean of the college. She, accepting, had a remarkable record. Her initiative and courage and her academic principles met a splendid foundation. And following on the original building came the buildings Cooper Hall, the Federation Hall, and the Music Building. But the first building which housed it all together at the start, the old Carpenter House, I remember so well my call on Mrs. Carpenter and her son as to the acquiring of that fine building on that splendid site we know as College Hall. And now Miss Corwin, the dean, with students 1,200 and faculty so much enlarged.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Demarest. This has certainly been an interesting and inspiring conversation.
Yes, it's interested me very much, Dr. Demarest, and it's revealed a great many things that I hadn't known about.
Well, it's been very pleasant to have this word as to things out at the College of Agriculture and the Women's College. And since you are the historian of Rutgers, Dr. McCormick, suppose someday we take a walk around the campus here and talk of the history behind the present erections.
I'd enjoy that very much.
Interesting. Dr. Demarest talks about the development of the School of Agriculture and the Women's College. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that for us and what changes have been made since the creation of the film?
Well, those two schools that Dr. Demarest is talking about are two very important component parts of Rutgers. The School of Agriculture, or College of Agriculture, actually came into existence, had its origins in 1864 when Rutgers received a land-grant status for the state of New Jersey. The Women's College was named New Jersey College for Women, and as Dr. Demarest reminds us in the film, it was really sort of the brainchild of Mabel Smith Douglas, a Barnard College graduate and instrumental in establishing a women's coordinate college at Rutgers, and that ultimately becomes known as Douglas College in 1955, named after the first dean, Mabel Smith Douglas.
Now, do you yourself have any stories or anecdotes about Dr. Demarest?
And talking about, remember Demarest, he's very formal, and we see that on the film, that and he really represents really the old-time Rutgers. His nickname was Demi, and people would refer to him as Demi, but he's the first and, as far as I know, the only graduate of Rutgers College to become president of Rutgers.
Pretty awesome. Well, in this next part, Professor McCormick and Dr. Demarest explore Old Queens campus.